It was 3:42 a.m. in a small, dimly lit basement on the outskirts of Dusseldorf. The only sounds were the soft hum of an ancient desktop fan and the furious clatter of a keyboard under pale, trembling fingers. In this underground world, a young man named Lars Muller stared into the glow of 5 monitors, his eyes bloodshot and wide with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Outside, the rain dripped rhythmically onto the cobblestones, echoing like a ticking bomb. Lars wasn't your typical teenager. At 19, he had no girlfriend, no steady job, no interest in school parties. He spent his nights alone with lines of code, sipping flat cola and living on stale chips. His mind, however, was a labyrinth, a place where rules bent and secrets lived. Tonight was different. Lars was about to cross a line that would change his life forever. His target, the digital vault of the United States Army. He wasn't driven by politics or ideology. He craved the ultimate adrenaline rush, the sensation of stepping into a forbidden world and leaving footprints no one else dared. His fingers danced across the keys, bypassing firewalls, rewriting log files, ghosting into hidden networks like a phantom in the dark. As he slipped past the final security node, codenamed Cerberus, a chill ran down his spine. He was in. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, in a secure data center buried beneath Fort Meade, a red indicator light flickered to life. At first, no one noticed. It was just another anomaly, another background echo in a sea of cyber noise. But as lines of code began to contort, alarms silently echoed through the vast labyrinth of cables and server racks. An analyst named Jenna, sipping her midnight coffee, froze when she saw the incoming data spike. Her eyes darted to a screen. Unauthorized access. Location, Germany. Target, Army logistics, personnel files, and top-secret drone deployment schedule. Back in Lars's basement, his pulse thundered in his ears. He didn't know it yet, but his digital fingerprints were leaving an invisible trail that even he couldn't erase. The files he began to download were beyond anything he had imagined. Troop movement schedules, satellite coordinates, names of covert operatives. Each line felt heavier than the last. The weight of nations now rested in a cracked, dusty basement filled with empty soda bottles and discarded pizza boxes. 3:57 a.m. Lars paused. His heart screamed at him to stop, but the screen's glow was hypnotic, a soft siren song of power and danger. He moved deeper, unlocking encrypted folders designed for top-level generals. Suddenly, his screen flashed red. The connection stalled. Lars cursed under his breath. He had been detected. In Maryland, Jenna slammed her mug down and began barking orders into a headset. A cyber task force mobilized, tracing the breach back through a maze of proxies and VPN tunnels. In a matter of minutes, Lars's internet line, something he thought was invisible, became his lifeline and his trap. Lars tried to sever the connection, but his system locked up, frozen in a last fatal handshake with the army servers. Panic surged. His mind, so sharp moments ago, now clouded with terror. He stumbled backward, tripping over a tangle of cables. The cursor blinked mercilessly at him, as if mocking his hubris. Outside, the rain turned into a torrential downpour. The first rays of dawn crawled across the city rooftops. Lars knew he had minutes, maybe seconds. He ran upstairs, yanked open a loose floorboard, and grabbed a small duffel bag filled with backup drives, cash, and a battered passport. He had planned for this moment, the great escape. But plans forged in the safety of fantasy often crumble under the weight of reality. 18 a.m. Sirens pierced the night. German police, guided by the US Cyber Task Force, surrounded the quiet suburban house. A van screeched to a halt. Black-clad officers rushed out, infrared scopes sweeping every window. Lars could see them from his attic crawlspace, their shadows moving like silent predators. He knew it was over. In that final moment, Lars looked down at a photo taped to his laptop, a picture of him as a child holding a toy robot, eyes wide with curiosity. Somewhere between childhood wonder and midnight code raids, he had become something unrecognizable, a ghost in the machine now hunted by the very giants he sought to challenge. The door crashed open. Heavy boots thundered up the stairs. Lars closed his eyes, his body trembling as laser dots swept across the attic. A voice barked in German, ordering him down. He dropped the bag, slowly raising his hands. In those few seconds, all the illusions of invincibility shattered into 1,000 shards. Hours later, as news agencies scrambled to report the sensational arrest, experts debated how a single young man could breach the most fortified military networks in the world. They called it the most daring cyber intrusion since the dawn of digital warfare. "The hacker from the basement," headlines screamed. In hushed conference rooms in Washington, generals pored over logs and data trails, stunned by the depth of the compromise. Lars was led through a maze of corridors, handcuffed, head down, a solitary figure swallowed by the cold machinery of international justice. He was questioned for days under harsh white lights. He refused to speak at first, eyes locked on a single point on the table, fingers twitching as if typing ghost commands only he could see. When he finally spoke, his voice was a whisper. "I just wanted to see if I could." The fallout was catastrophic. Emergency security reviews spread through NATO allies. Army networks were shut down, recoded and purged. Agents scrambled to relocate operatives exposed by the leaks. Some believed lives were lost, missions blown apart. Lars became both a cautionary tale and a twisted folk hero among certain online communities, a lonely genius who saw the world as a puzzle to solve. Months turned into years. Lars stood trial under intense scrutiny. His defense painted him as a curious prodigy, lost in a virtual world, blind to consequences. Prosecutors, however, described a calculated saboteur who danced along the edge of cyber warfare. As the court read the verdict, Lars barely blinked. The sentence earned. It's decades behind bars, a lifetime to reflect on the night he reached into the beating heart of a superpower. Far away from courtroom cameras, in a small corner of the internet, threads still appear debating how exactly he did it. Some claim he had inside help. Others insist he was the embodiment of digital genius, a lone wolf who outwitted the most sophisticated defense systems in existence. Lars's story lives on in whispered chats, dark forums, and ghostly memes. It's retold like a modern legend, a young man fueled by code and caffeine who cracked open the gates of a digital fortress from the shadows of his basement. But somewhere in a maximum security wing of a German prison, a man sits alone, his fingers still twitching slightly, as if searching for keys no longer there. Perhaps he still imagines the glowing screens, the silent pulse of servers thousands of miles away. Perhaps in the quiet hours before dawn, he dreams of that final night, the moment he became a phantom who hacked the US Army and vanished into the echoes of cyberspace.